This is the Charleston Women Podcast, and I'm your host, Erin Kienzle. And if you have been following our journey, you know that I have interviewed some amazing and inspiring women in Charleston. And hopefully you're also reading the Charleston Women Magazine, because today we are going to introduce you to the new managing editor.
This is Charleston Women Podcast, where you can meet like-minded, strong, independent, professional, and inspiring local women. This is Charleston Women Podcast.
Now I would like to introduce you to today's guest, Lorna Hollifield, who is the new managing editor of Charleston Women Magazine, not just Charleston Women, but also Mount Pleasant Magazine. Lorna, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited.
Yes, we interview so many amazing and, inspiring women around Charleston. And, obviously this podcast is an extension of the Charleston Women Magazine. So I'm excited to talk to you today just to kind of elaborate more on the magazine and the mission and the, great movement that you guys are doing. But can we just start with getting to know you? I think you're fascinating. Yeah. You're a writer. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. I'm a writer really before I'm anything else. I mean, that's kind of the first thing about me. A lot of people don't know this because I don't go that deeply into my background, but I started learning to read when I was probably 3 and could read about anything by the time I was 4. And I never went to preschool. I was never around other kids. When my parents were at work, I stayed with my grandmother during the day. And it didn't occur to me at the time why it was such a big deal to her that I'd be smart, that I'd be well-read. Mm-hmm. But she dropped out of high school in 10th grade. And this is in Appalachia in the 50s. And everybody was just kind of, down home, salt of the earth. And, but she was really smart in a lot of ways. And I don't think that she got her due with that a lot. People just saw her as she's the homemaker, takes care of the kids. She cooks. We really, really like her chocolate oatmeal cookies, but they didn't engage her in conversation about things that mattered a lot. I think it bothered her. And so she started teaching me to read really young. And I feel like every second with her was a lesson of some sort. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how I became the writer, because when you mix all of that instruction with soap operas in the background all day, you come up with a lot of stories.
So you started reading at a young age. When did this transition? Were you the kid who was, on the school newspaper? Did you major in English? Where did this path take you?
Yeah. So the first person to ever call me an author was my first grade teacher.
Oh, wow.
And she wrote it in my report card, which I read to my mother. I said, "Oh, Ms. Harkins says Lorna is an author." Mm-hmm. And I loved that because I was always writing stories, but it really made me take ownership of that. And I was like, okay, and I just ran with it. And I never stopped writing. Even if you go back to things people wrote in my yearbooks, it was enjoy your life. I'm sure you're going to have a bestseller. Enjoy your life. I'll read what you wrote in a magazine. I mean, everybody knew me as that person. And it's funny because I was totally the bleach blonde cheerleader too, but everybody was like, "Oh, Lorna's like a closet nerd. She's always writing." But I don't think I was that much in the closet. I think I was pretty clear that I was a dork, but it just was always who I am. I did major in English at UNC Asheville. Mm-hmm. But then the writing game is just about fighting your way through doors. Mm-hmm. I hate to say education is important, but it's not the biggest deal. It's really not. Sorry, not sorry. Unpopular opinion. Mm-hmm. You just need to be gritty, and decide what you want to do in writing. And then, when I say fight your way in, it's really true. It's just like being one in the school of fish, and everybody wants, to get through this one tiny little hole, just like this tiny little glimmer of light. And one fish out of that whole school is going to get through. And you just got to figure out how that's going to be you. And I've learned that it's just being the last one standing, because I think everybody gets a lot of rejection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that, because I agree with you 100%. Unpopular opinion or not. I always tell my kids, I don't think it's about being the smartest one around. It's just about being the hardest worker, and being resilient to just keep going. I agree with that.
You think, have you ever seen one of those contests where you have to like keep your hand on the boat to win the boat?
Yes.
That's
Did you win
life.
That once?
Yeah, no, but I mean, that's life. And you might have to pee in your pants and you might have to sleep there and that's life.
It's just about showing up day after day after day. Up.
Podcast advertising is the new way to reach your best audience. Podcast advertising gives your business a voice of authority. Be heard. Advertise on one of our podcasts. Visit carolinapodcasts.com or call 843-345-7012.
You're listening to the Charleston Women Podcast.
Well, so what was that like? Your first novel, was it Tobacco Sun? Was that your first one?
That was my first, yeah.
All right. So when that came out, I mean, there's so many people that had childhoods like you that love to read, love to write. So it's, someday I want to write something, but it happens for very few, as you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So when you finally made it and you were that fish who squeezed through that hole and came out on the other side, like what did it feel like to see your novel in print?
Oh my gosh. Well, the day I got my book deal, I couldn't believe it. I fell to the floor, like crying. Mm-hmm. And my husband ran in and thought a family member had died. He was like, what happened? Is it my grandma? Like, I mean, I felt bad. He's like, who was it? What happened? What's wrong with you? Because I was like, I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to get a book deal for about 10 years. And It happened right after my 30th birthday, which back when I was 20, trying to get a book deal. And I thought I had it all figured out. I just wish I could. I mean, I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't go back and laugh in my face because that's how I got a book deal by 30 was starting at 20. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's fine, but I did not know. I sent out like a few query letters and had one person request to even look at my manuscript. And I, thought, oh, this is it. Like they're going to sign me. And no. So it felt really good. And then holding the book for the first time was, it was not, now that I have a human baby, it wasn't like holding my baby, but at the time it was like holding my baby.
I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah.
So you have 2 books out, 2 novels out, and now, you've kind of taken a turn, which I love. I love seeing women, we're never stuck to one path for our entire life. So you return, is this a return to publishing or is this your first time? I feel like you told me you've done this before.
It's my first time as a managing editor. Okay. I've written many columns. I used to be a columnist for Skirt Magazine. I was their book columnist. I've written for Azalea Magazine.
I missed the Skirt Magazine book club. Can I just interject that? I missed that.
I know.
It's a good time.
Can we make a large call to bring that back? Yeah. And I've had articles published here and there. I like writing magazine articles and I don't like writing news stories. You'll never see me work for a newspaper and report on, there was an accident on I-26, but anything that's about people or human beings, I totally dig it. And it's the same thing, as a fiction writer, all of my stories are very character driven. I start with the person and it's the same as a columnist. And even when I did a book column, I would focus on, the characters and the motivation of the author. I just like people. And so magazine gives me a chance to connect with other people, and Charleston Women gives me a chance to connect with other females. And I love it. I totally love it. I'm an extrovert writer. Our whole mission is to build confidence and inspiration in other women. And I've always been like that. Even before it was cool to be like that. I'm like, let's just encourage each other. And even I think it's natural sometimes to be jealous of another woman, but even so, I'd be like, oh man, I'm being jealous. I should just cheer her on. And would consciously be like, don't be jealous, clap for her. Like your time will come. Yeah. And I think that magazine, creates this whole culture of it. And we have this hashtag we're using now, We Are Charleston Women. And that's kind of the new idea of it. Like it's becoming a nation, it's a whole brand. It's not just stories.
That's really cool. I think Charleston Women as a magazine is still kind of an infant, it hasn't been around that long. And, I've talked to Bill, the publisher, before about how there's a real need for this in our community. Did you feel the same? Yeah. I don't know, women wanted a publication like this. We wanted something focused on women and entrepreneurs and success stories. And I feel like that's why it's taken off so rapidly. Would you agree?
Totally. And there was a hole for that in Charleston. You didn't see something that was just about women. The first time I ever saw it, I actually was at the Low Country Life studio in the green room, and I just saw it like sitting there on the coffee table. And this is, a year ago or so when it was, first coming out. And I thought, oh my gosh, where did this come from? I didn't know who owned it. I didn't know what it was, affiliated with. I just saw it. I thought it was a beautiful logo. There were all of these different kinds of women on the front cover, and it was just so celebratory. I just thought, this is so great. And I thought, I either want to write for this or I want to be in this. Like, I just immediately, at that time, I wanted to be a part of it. Yeah. And I didn't expect that opportunity would knock at my door, but it did. And I was so happy.
And here you are. We're all happy that you're on board, that you're here as managing editor. So what is next? I think it's the last year or so, just kind of, launching and figuring things out. What do you see next for the magazine?
Next, I would call it just becoming more autopilot, because at first, and this is before my time, I say we as the magazine, but, we're experimenting with what was going to work. And should it lean more business? What kind of women should we feature? How often is this going to come out? And now I think it's just about cultivating more of what we've already done and then staying consistent with it, because now we understand our brand now. We know her now. Yeah. And so it's about doing more of it, and hopefully the publication coming out, more than 3 times a year, because it only comes out 3 times a year right now. And we would love to see it eventually come out, bi-monthly, like Mount Pleasant Magazine. I'm not saying that's going to happen anytime soon, but it's, the support is moving exponentially. It's not at all just like, little by little. I mean, women are just like flocking to this. Right. So I don't think that that's that far-fetched.
Right. Well, I think you and I saw it. We did a collaboration on Instagram. We did a reel with both of us and said, we're just, tag a Charleston woman who would be a good fit to be featured. And I was stunned. I mean, we had so many comments and shares. So I think it just speaks to how many women want to be a part of that movement, as you said, that you're creating.
Thousands. And people love camaraderie. They love to be a part of something. And being born a female, you're a part of something, whether you want to be or not. It's just like, you're one of the other women, and it's like, you're in our club, it's welcome, little girl. We have a lot to share with you. Yeah. And so I think that's why women like it so much, because it's like our little sanctuary in a way. It's a place to just shine and be celebrated by other people that feel the way you feel. That Instagram collab we did was literally like 3 seconds, like where it's like, and that's like the whole thing. And people just flocked to it because they saw community in it. And that's all it took.
That's all it takes. And there's so many people. I get messages. I know you're getting messages of women who want to be a part of this. They want to be featured. They know a woman that should be featured. So all these people that are interested and want to be a part of this, I wish, like you said, you could do it monthly just so you could have content for days. You're not at that point yet. So for women who want to be a part of Charleston Women, how do they move forward? Is there a process? You're looking for stories. There's so many wonderful women to be featured. It's got to be hard to choose.
It is hard to choose. Word of mouth is huge. Sometimes I just hear like, this woman is doing this thing, or I'll just see it on social media and be like, I need to meet her. And so just honestly, the smallest little things, like if you have a girlfriend who did something amazing and just posting about it, sometimes those little butterfly effects reach us because people keep sharing about it. But of course, there's more direct ways to reach out to us. And you can totally email me at editor@mountpleasantmagazine.com with any story ideas, and I will consider it for sure. We do have a ton of story ideas, so it's pretty competitive, but we love women who are doing anything that is unique, or even doing something that's not unique really well. You know what I mean? And not to say, it's weird because I almost hate to say like we like to see women doing something, the best, because failures are kind of a part of it too. But, we love the stories where maybe there was struggle along the way, but we do want to see the light at the end of the tunnel because we want to be an inspiration to others. But it's not to say it has to be a woman in business. There are plenty of women who stay home with their children that are doing these things that nobody has any idea about, and they should. Or last issue, we featured the roller derby, because that's just another place where women find that camaraderie. So anywhere where there's just anything unique, inspiring happening, just anything that can pour into another woman's life and that can help her in any way, show it to us. We might say yes.
Well, they say there are 40 people moving to Charleston daily. So if you do the math on average, I bet that's 20 women that are moving here daily. So you're going to have endless stories of all kinds of awesome ladies who need to be featured. Where do people pick up the magazine? I know it comes out 3 times a year. Where's the best place to, of course, follow on social media, follow at Charleston Women on Instagram.
On social media. And then it's at all major newsstands, especially grocery stores. Your local Publix or Harris Teeter that, usually always has it. And then there's tons of businesses across town, especially, people who advertise the magazine will carry the magazine. It's a lot of places. Anywhere that you see a stand with those, local magazines, Charleston Women's going to be in that mix.
So can you share anything with us? Any upcoming stories that you're working on that you can maybe, drop a few nuggets, tease us, if you will?
So our next issue is going to focus on Charleston women in business. And one thing I'm looking for right now is to find some female head chefs who are head chefs over some really cool restaurants that are, big deals, because like 78% of all head chefs are males. And it's funny because in like a cliche way, women are so associated with cooking and being in the kitchen, yet this is this huge male-dominated industry.
Good point.
And so it's hard for female chefs to break in. It really is. There's this kind of glass ceiling there. So I'm going to talk to some women who are head chefs. And then also there's a really cool bill being passed by trying to be passed by one of our lawmakers that's going to help human trafficking victims.
Oh, wow.
And our state is horrible with the amount of human trafficking we have. It's huge. I don't know if it's because it's coastal. I don't know what it is, but it's a really big deal here. And then in the Charleston area is the worst. I mean, in the state, it's a thing. And I also volunteer with the Junior Service League in Summerville, where I live. And one of the charities we work with helps rehabilitate human trafficking victims. So I've learned so much about it, and it's just such a big deal. It's an issue everybody needs to know about. So there's Nancy Mace is trying to get a bill passed to where there will be a helpline posted in every single airport bathroom, every bathroom on any plane, train, boat, any transportation system whatsoever that they can call from right there. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
We cannot wait to see all of that. Such important stories that you're working on. Again, just remind me of the website and the best way for people to reach out to you.
Yeah, charlestonwomen.com or readcw.com. That's the best way. And then you can reach out to me, editor at mountpleasantmagazine.com.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been the latest edition of the Charleston Women Podcast. I'm your host, Erin Kienzle, and today we were talking to managing editor Lorna Hollifield. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for spending time with Charleston Women Podcast. Please like us and follow us on whatever platform you're using to access Charleston Women Podcast.